Hello crafters and welcome to P2PCrafts Presents, brought to you by From Picture to Page and Beyond Papercraft shows. I'm your host, Michelle Brown, Creative Director from Picture to Page, which is our scrapbooking, mixed media art and papercrafts community. Now, P2PCraft presents our talented retailers and some guest artists in a whole heap of sessions. So if you'd like to know more, head over to our website, FromPictureToPageAndBeyond.com.au, where you can see recordings of all the sessions, all the links to the things we talk about and our beautiful talented artists, and see all the sessions that are coming up as well. Now, whether you're watching us live on Facebook or through YouTube or a replay, we'd love to know that you're there. So pop in the comments, make sure you say hi, ask any questions, and myself and Dannii will definitely make sure we answer them. And of course, give us a thumbs up and share us with your crafting community. Now today, P2PCraft presents Crafters Cupboard and Dannii. Hello, Dannii. So we're so excited to have you here today, and we'd love to learn a little bit more about you. So what have you currently been working on?
Well, I've actually not done a lot of craft at all because I'm a florist by day, and we're really busy. So I've missed out on a lot of crafting, but I do a little bit of art journaling. So I'm trying to maintain a daily journal, but with not much luck because I'm doing anything up to 15 or 18 hours a day. So it's been very hard. Yeah,
that's crazy. So what's your favourite flower colour combination at the moment?
I like to do bright, so hot pinks and reds, yellows, oranges. So lots of green foliages and things. So lots of texture.
Excellent, that's good. And so, what are you going to show us today?
So today we're working on some paper artsy because Crafters Cupboard are one of the biggest retailers in Australia with paper artsy. They specialise in that. So I'm going to use some Tracy Scott stencils, and some Tracy Scott stamps, and of course we're going to use some paper artsy paints, and we've got a really gorgeous little art journal page to work on today.
Oh, excellent. Fantastic. And of course, just to remind everyone, even if you're not an art journaler, you can always take the same ideas back into card making and scrapbooking as well.
Absolutely. This would really work as a card front as well.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so I'll let you get yourself ready while we get set up. Okay, now we've got more things there where they shouldn't be. Oh my goodness. Well, not to worry. Oh no, and it looks like we've lost Dannii as well. Oh my goodness. So, let's see if we can get Dannii back. Okay, we've got Dannii back again. Okay. You all ready to go? That looks good. Yeah, I'm good. Okay, take it away, Dannii.
Hello, thank you for having me. So today we've got a little art journal page. Hopefully you can see that well.
Yes, we can.
And we're using the paper artsy stamp. This is ETS39 and designed by the UK artist Tracy Scott. So these are a new set that have just come out early this year. And this is a second set, ETS41, and we're going to use those in the background. So we've got a few little stencils as well. So this is the sample that we're making today. And I'm using Art by Marlene journal, only because I really love the fact that we can pull out the cardstock out of these. So I'll quickly find some empty paper here. I've got little butterflies floating in here. So I find it really easy to work in the Art by Marlene journals because you can take out the cardstock and then pop it back into the folder. So you don't have to worry about getting messy work or anything like that. So I'm going to start with some Grunge Paste. This is a paper artsy product. So it's just a texture paste. It's a lovely consistency, kind of a little bit like icing for icing a cake or something like that. So it's a nice sort of consistency. And we're going to use a paper artsy stencil. This one is PS154. And I'm just going to pop that down I'll get these stamps out of the way. And I'm just using a little bit of the paste, if I can scoop it out. And it's just like sort of buttering your toast, basically. So we're just going to fill in the gaps of the stencil. I must have picked the worst palette knife in my collection. It's a bit flimsy. So we're just sort of spreading that grunge paste through the stencil onto my cardstock, or onto the art journal page, should I say. There we go, nice and easy. Just taking that excess off, and I'm going to put that back into the pot. And then you can see how well that's come up. Just give that a quick wipe. And I've got a little bit of over spray there, or not spray, but a little bit of extra paste. So I'm just going to wipe that off with a baby wipe. That comes off nice and easy while it's still wet. And I'm going to pop that aside to dry. You can hit it with the heat gun, but we're going to basically go on to the stamping now. So we can just leave that to dry on its own. I'm using a stamping platform. This is a Misty. So there's plenty of different other platforms out there, and you can use whatever is appropriate for you, what you might already have. This one was the original, I think. So I'm using the large butterfly from the Tracy Scott set. And I've got a little bit of smooth cardstock. So this is a nice heavyweight cardstock. And I'm just going to pop that, my straight edge, into the Misty, make sure that it's right up against there, pop my magnets in, and then I can pop my butterfly down and close the lid. I'm using some archival ink, so this is a good one for permanent inking with your stamps. And I'm just going to lightly tap my ink all over. And we'll stamp that butterfly out. So just a little bit of pressure. Sorry, this paper's making my Misty slip around. So you can see how nicely that's stamped up. It's a little bit light in here, but we're going to paint over the top, so I'm not going to be too concerned. Now the trick is not to move your stamp. So take your little piece out, this cardstock, and I'm going to close the lid and put this aside. I'm not going to take the stamp out, and I'll show you why that is in a minute. Put my paper back down under here. So these are the Paper Artsy paints. They have some beautiful ranges of colours. And today I'm going to use Banana, Cerise, Cerulean and Slimed. So these are my sort of favourite go-to colours. And I'm going to pop a little bit of, we'll start with the banana. So just give it a little shake. You don't need too much paint. I've got a fairly small pointy paintbrush, not an expensive one, and we're just going to go straight in. This is a dry brush. I haven't wet it at all. And just going to lightly painting some of those areas of the butterfly. I'm not worrying too much about going over the black areas or over lines. It's not a colouring book. we just need to get the paint down nice and quick. So again, just dry brushing the paint on. And I'm a bit of a page turner, so I kind of just keep turning my paper to suit my hand. So just lightly wisping in the petals here. And again, not being too careful. If it goes over the lines or into the black area, it's all good. We're sort of looking for that paintedly look. Just into the wings a little bit. You just need to work a little bit quickly because the paint's an acrylic base and it's got a chalky finish and tends to dry quite quickly. And of course I've got my heater going because it's so cold today. Working in a cold florist shop, I tend to bung the heater up as soon as I get home. Okay, so we're just getting all those little petals in. And I'll just do the centers of the flowers. So again, you can see I'm not being too particular about the technique and the way I'm painting, just getting the colour down. Okay, now I'm going to use a little bit of slime. Now I haven't dried that brush off. I'm just going to use a baby wipe and just give it a little quick wipe, but I don't really want to get all that paint off the brush. I want to use a dirty brush so I can get a bit more blending happening. So now I'm just going over where I've painted in the yellow, just extending that colour out with the slime, and we're blending over the top. The slime's translucent, as is the banana, and so it's picking up a bit of that yellow underneath and you're getting a little bit more blending. So just back over all the areas that I've already popped our banana down with the slime. Just concentrating on getting nice little blends happening. And again, I haven't added any water to the brush yet, so we're still dry brushing. And we'll just do the leaves on the outside as well while we've got the paint out. Again, not being too fussy about if I'm going out of the lines.
It's very relaxing watching you paint, Dannii.
Oh, lovely. Sorry, I'm not much of a talker. I'm
No,
concentrating.
that's okay.
Trying to do it quickly so you don't get too bored.
No, it's very relaxing, very calming.
Beautiful. I actually find painting in this manner is it really quite a stress relief for me, especially if I had a busy day. Nothing better than coming home and colouring a few stamps, getting them ready for my art journals or card making.
Yeah, and we
And
had
then you've got
Rachel
them ready.
suggest that on Saturdays. Yeah, if you're not feeling really crafty, just get out some stamps and add a little bit of colour and yeah.
Exactly. Sometimes I don't have a great deal of time, so I do that quite a bit and have a bit of a stash myself.
Lovely. So Leanne's just asked if this could be done with inks.
Of course it can be. This is just a technique with paint because people wouldn't think a great deal of using paint to colour in stamped images. So I just wanted to try something a little bit different, show you that you could get a paintedly look. But you could definitely do it with inks or with pencils. You could do the same sort of manner. I think Rachel smooched her Distress Oxides, didn't she? And she was using a bit of water, so you could definitely watercolour them with your inks as well. That would be really cool.
Yeah, something like distressed inks that you could use with some water would be good. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
it would be a bit
Things
hard
that were,
to get
yeah,
the
things
colours.
that are water activated. So even your water activated crayons and things would work nicely as well. But this is just a technique to show you that you can use paints as well. So, because like I said, most people wouldn't think about painting a stamped image in. They would definitely go to their inks and their pencils first, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've just about done all that green area now, and I'm going to go in now with, I think, the Cerulean. This is a really lovely tealy sort of colour. And you can see how far this paint's going to. You don't need a great blob of it. You only need sort of a small amount. So again, just going back over, this teal is more of an opaque colour, so it's going to take on a little bit of the green underneath, but it's also a bit more opaque, so it will be a bit more of a solid colour. If we put that second layer on, it would definitely cover anything that's underneath. You can just see a little bit of that slime popping through.
Yes,
So again, I'm just...
the paper
sorry.
artsy paints are certainly nice and bright, aren't they?
They are. They've got some beautiful colours and a very large range. I'm not sure how many colours are actually on the range, but it's a very big stand at Crafters Cupboard because I've had to load it and unload it a few times.
Nothing like getting to know the colours well when you have to put them in and out.
Absolutely. It's a big job. It's one of those ones that we all put off because no one likes to load and unload the paint stand. I try and palm it off to Jennifer all the time because she's got small hands. I'm not getting my head in the way, am I?
No, not at all.
Awesome. Oops.
And Deborah would like to know where we can find that beautiful stamp.
So this is definitely a Paper Artsy stock one. So you need to find a supplier that has Paper Artsy. Crafters Cupboard in Berwick, as I said before, are a big stockist of Paper Artsy, and they actually specialise in a lot of Paper Artsy products. They have lots of other products as well, but their main core of their business is Paper Artsy. So you can definitely buy it from Crafters Cupboard in Berwick. They have an online store.
Yeah, and then afterwards we'll pop the link in and you can see it on the screen there, crafterscupboard.com.au.
Awesome. That's dangerous. Start looking at all those Paper Artsy stamps and paints, and you might be popping a little bit more in your shopping basket than you expected. Okay, so just moving fairly quickly, just blending that teal into the green now. And I'm just trying to feather the teal a little bit into the green. So it's looking a little bit dodgy at the moment, but it's going to look much more painterly once we stamp over the top again. Okay, so we're getting there. And just give my brush a bit of a wipe again. Still haven't dropped it in any water yet. And we're going to use the cerise. That's a gorgeous hot pink. And now we're just going to go over those areas that we just put the Cerulean down. So this is a translucent, so it's going to pick up a little bit of that blue underneath and give you a bit more of a purpley tone underneath as well, which is really cute. And of course the pink mixing on the yellow is going to give you that nice orangey tone as well.
So that's really clever. You've managed to make 4 colours look like a lot more colours by blending them together carefully.
Exactly. That's the benefit of using translucent and opaque paints. With translucent, they tend to pick up the colour that's underneath. And so you can get some really magical colours with the blending of, 2 translucent colours. Or if you put a light opaque over the top and don't give it a second coat, it will definitely take on a bit more of the colour that's underneath. So the beauty of the Paper Artsy is you don't necessarily need to know the translucent and the opaque. They've actually got it marked on the bottles. So this one says here, can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can.
It says opaque, and it tells you on the bottle that this colour is opaque. Slimed is semi-opaque, and then this one is translucent.
Mm-hmm.
So it really makes your job a lot easier when you're picking your colours. You'll know which ones are going to work together and which ones you expect that you're going to need a few more coats of because it's translucent, or have the benefit of having the extra colours because you're using all translucent colours. So it's one of those really great design labels that they've got on these Paper Artsy paints. Great for beginners.
And Dannii, Sandra would like to know, what type of paper have you stamped on?
So this is just a heavyweight 300 GSM cardstock.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a nice smooth cardstock. Not sure of the brand. I actually picked it up at Picture to Page in Berwick, the last show.
Oh, it could have been from any one of the 35 retailers then.
It was one of the retailers that specialises in the paper and the envelopes. So anyway, it's beautiful stuff. I bought a big ream of it, so it hasn't got a label or a packet on there, but you just want a heavyweight cardstock that's going to hold a bit of paint.
Now, Leanne was asking, do you need to put the opaque colour down first?
No, as the Cerulean is an opaque, and you can see that I've popped that down over the top of the translucent, and I've put the translucent over the opaque here as well. So when you put one layer of opaque down and you put it down fairly lightly, you can still get a little bit of colour coming through. It's going to block out a lot of colour, so we haven't got as much slime in there if you have a quick look. But there is a little bit of slime coming through. If I put a second layer of the Cerulean down, that would completely block out. So it doesn't really matter which way you work. Obviously, you need to consider that one's a translucent, one is opaque, so it's going to cover a bit more of your surface, but you can work on top of opaque, and you can work on top of a translucent. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so either way, and like everything, just experiment with what you've got and see what works.
Exactly, yeah. And it is a little bit about trial and error too. You'll sort of know what works well, and you'll pick your colours and sort of go to your safety colours when you know that they work well and they look good together. So this is a colour combination that I do use a lot because I know it works really well. And they're nice and bright.
They certainly are.
So we're just doing the inside of the flower. I'm just feathering that out again. So following the sort of the petal line. Okay. So I'm just going to go back in now with the cerulean and just feather that a little bit more, just make it a little bit more streaky. And I haven't cleaned my brush out, so I have got a little bit of that pink coming through, which is nice. Just sort of extending that blue area a little bit more, taking a little bit of that yellow out. And we're getting a little bit more blending happening. I'm just trying to sort of feather on both ends so that it looks a little bit more paintedly instead of patchy. You don't really need to load that brush up either, just a little bit on the tip of your brush.
So Dannii, you've got a lot of people loving the colours and the stamps. So is there others in the Tracy Scott range that you could do a similar technique with?
Oh, absolutely. Tracy has a huge range. Like, she's up to 40, so she must have at least 40, 45 stamp sets to choose from. And she loves her florals. So here's a couple more that you could definitely do this sort of technique with. Beautiful dahlias. So she does lots of little florals, but she also has sort of carved stamps, lots of shapes and things. And they're always sets that work together. So if you've bought an earlier set, maybe that was in the low teens, they always seem to work with what she's producing now as well. So she definitely has a bit of a style that kind of flows through with all her stamp sets. So you can definitely make your Tracy Scott stamps work with all the ones that you might already have in your collection.
Yeah, that's excellent. There's nothing like blending your new products with your old ones.
Oh, absolutely. Kind of, sometimes you buy a stamp and you love it, but then you move on to new products. And then Tracy will bring out another stamp and I'll go, oh, that works so well with, the one that I used to love 5 years ago. And so you're able to, reinvent and start playing with those favourite tools again, which is awesome. I really like that she has that style that's quite recognisable and that you can really work with. Okay. Just going to go in with the flowers here and put a little bit of yellow in. And we're just going to blend back into the hot pink. So again, I haven't used any water at all. I'm just using a damp baby wipe to wipe off a little excess of the paint. And we're still doing that sort of dry brushing. Just helps with the blending a lot easier, and we're not going to buckle the cardstock by adding too much water. Of course, now we're starting to get a little bit of that sort of orangey tones coming through as well.
Yeah, that's quite amazing, because when you showed us your first sample, I would have said there was definitely orange on it, and now we can see how you've done that.
So you can definitely make your paints work for you just by picking the right shades and working together with translucent colours to sort of get other colours coming in the blending. Okay, nearly done. So I add a bit of yellow to my leaves. Just on one side of the leaf, a little bit of a highlight. And it will just make them a little bit more dimensional later. They won't be so flat with a little bit of tone on them. And just going back over and brightening up that little bit of hot pink there, the cerise on the yellow while the yellow's still a little bit wet. Just gives them a little bit of a pop. And because the hot pink is very translucent, I'm just going to quickly go back over and just give it one more coat just to give it some vibrancy. So again, just trying to feather that colour in. Oops.
And Dannii, Lorraine was asking, what type and size brush are you using?
Believe it or not, these are Bunnings brushes. The wonderful Jennifer found these and led me astray to Bunnings. So it's a nice cheap brush. It was in the craft section and it's a number 4. So it's just a nice pointed brush. But use the brushes that you're comfortable with, that you feel you can handle better. So some people like to use flat brushes, round. It really, I'm not a particular person that you have to have a certain brand. I like cheap brushes because I'm very hard on them, so I'm not always good at washing them and keeping them in good order. So a good Bunnings brush is great because I'm only paying a couple of bucks for them and I can throw them out if I've not looked after it well enough. But definitely for this sort of feathering technique, I find a nice point on the end is important. Okay, so I think we're just about done there. Whoops. Just going to highlight a little bit more of this yellow. And you can see that Cerulean, the cerise is popping through the yellow because my brush is dirty, which I kind of like that little extra pop of colour down there. And I'm just putting a little bit more slime back on those leaves. So you can see this technique is something that you could, really take a few hours with if you wanted to. But you can also get a great effect by quickly just painting these colours in as well. And again, you can see how kind of rough I've been with it. I'm not really keeping in the lines. I'm not being too pedantic about it. It's just a piece of paper at the end of it all. All right. Just wash my brush out. That'll be good. And I'm just going to quickly hit that with my heat tool, make sure it's nice and dry. So it definitely looks a little bit rough at the moment. We're going to bring over the Misty tool again. And we haven't moved that stamp. We just closed the lid on it. So, sorry. Going to put the stamped edge back in the cardstock right up onto the edge of the Misty. And using the archival again, I'm going to go back in and load up my stamp. Just lightly tapping. And this is going to bring in all those dark lines again. So we just go back over and give it a little bit of pressure. And I'll just go back in again. You can see how well that's come up now with the extra black over the top. So it really makes it pop and gives that more paintedly sort of look. So I'm quite happy with that. Just slightly wipe my stamp. I'll give that a good clean later. And just to make sure that that archival's nice and dry, I'm just going to bang it again with the heat tool. Okay. So now I'm going to use some Caran d'Ache neon pencils. So again, you can grab these at Crafters Cupboard. They're just a really nice bright fluoro, and I'm going to go over my painted areas now with the pencil, just nice and quickly. And this is just going to bring some more colour in and give it a real pop.
So what type of pencils are they, Dannii? They look quite soft.
Yeah, they're Caran d'Ache. So they're just her fluoro pencils. So they are a nice, soft, artist quality pencil. And you can buy them singly. So just going over the cerise with the fluoro pink. And that sort of helps to get that feathering as well, because I can be a little bit more sort of streaky there. And it looks gorgeous on the yellow. And go into the yellow areas now with the fluoro yellow. And just adding a bit of pencil over the top just really makes it your own, and sort of gives that extra pop on your painted areas.
Yes, it certainly does make it mixed media. I think I was doing a class with Crafters Cupboard. I can't remember if it was Marlene or Tracy, and the thought of putting pencil over to paint honestly had never occurred to me until that moment.
Yeah. And I suppose that's where the term does come from, mixed media, where you're using so many other mediums, to get the final result of your work.
Yeah, and it's a great way to give the paint to give that base layer of colour and then use the pencil to add that detail.
Yeah, just to get that final pop of colour, and you might not be so steady with your hand, so you can get in there with your pencil and really do the final details. But again, I'm not being too pedantic. I'm just sort of rubbing my pencil over the areas, and it's enough to add a little bit more colour. These pencils, I think they were introduced to me by Marlene actually at her workshop, and I've got a collection of them now. They're in just about every pencil case because they're just my favourite go-to tools over paint. Okay, so we're nearly done. And I'm just going to put a little bit of shading down the side of the butterfly with the orange. And maybe a pop in there.
No, it's great to see that level of detail. I think, again, sometimes we forget that to create this shading and these layers, you actually need to put them in. So it's great to be able to watch someone do it and say, yeah, it's just that little bit here and there that makes all the difference.
It does make a difference. Just a little bit extra time can make your pictures go from flat to a little bit more detailed. So I think it's a really important step and something that, you should consider before you finish and start fussy cutting out. So here I've got some Posca pens. Most people know the good old Posca pen. They're my favourites. And I've got fine tips. I think they're maybe a 0.5, 0.7 they are. And they're quite fine lines. So I'm just going to use my white and just do a little bit of doodling and highlighting over the top. A bit of smudgy paint. So I'm just going to go over and just sort of follow the shaded lines that Tracy's already popped in there and just give it a little bit more of a Meraki. Just following basically the lines that are there, but just a nice sort of sketchy line. And this just really finishes your project off. So nothing too hard, just follow the shaded areas that you've already got stamped in there. And really not thinking too hard about it, because that's when you get a bit precious and starts really strangling your pen and nothing seems to work then. So the messier the better. Kind of gives you that more paintedly effect then. I'm just sort of doing broken lines. I'm not following the whole winged pattern, but just sort of little broken lines around just to highlight.
And Dannii, how does the white Posca pen go as it dries? Does it become more translucent?
On this paint, I find, depending on how strong the colour is, it sometimes will take, and if you're colouring a big section with Posca pen, it will take on a bit of the paint colour. But when we're just using it like a fine tip pen here, it does keep its white nicely, or I find it does anyway. I'm quite happy with it. I know there's lots of white pens out there, but I keep going back to the good old Posca pen. So I have to stay away from Officeworks as much as I can because my pencil case is a chock-a-block full of Posca pens.
Yes, it becomes the eternal quest for the perfect white pen.
Oh my goodness, yes, it does. Yeah. So you can see just with those little highlights, it just sort of adds a little bit more. You can pop a few more dots in there just to give it a little bit more butterfly pattern, I suppose. And you can just keep going and going, like, you know, gets a bit crazy. So obviously with more time you can doodle as much as you like, but I've actually cheated and I won't make you go through a whole fussy cut.
Oh,
so
thank you, Dannii.
Fussy cut one out. I don't think anyone enjoys fussy cutting too much, so I've fussy cut that out. We're going to grab our page that we put the paste on. We'll just pop that butterfly out of the way. I'll just layer that over the top so I don't stick my hand in it. And that's just about dry. I'll just quickly give it a burst with the heat tool. So this is the stamp set that we've used with the butterfly. Just put that into frame. So it's got a few little extra pieces in there that you can use, which is really nice. Tracy always has little extra accessories in her stamp sets. It's pretty much done. And we're also going to use a second set. Where did I put that one? Here it is. So this one's just more of a mark making one. So I'm going to grab a couple of those. Always a sucker for circles and spots, so we'll use those ones. Pop that out of the way. And again, I'm just going to grab my archival. Just going to use the black, I think, because that will be a nice contrast. And we can just mount the stamps onto an acrylic block. And I'm just going to sort of randomly stamp some sections down. We want to keep a little bit of negative space, so I want to keep a little bit of white space in there. And I always stamp in threes because it's a bit more visually pleasing when you've got sort of groups of threes. And I'm just working in that horizontal to go with the stencil that we've already got down. So that was nice and easy. And just mount that one.
Oh, that's a fantastic stamp.
Isn't it? I'm a real sucker for spots like most of us are. And so when this one came, I just knew that I had to have this one. And I've got very similar stamps in other sets with this sort of rings and things, but this is awesome. Okay, so that's enough stamping. Just give that a quick wipe. And I'm going to use just a couple of colours. So I've got some similar colours in the Gina Wakely gloss sprays, her new ones that have just come out, and they're very close to the colours that we've been using. So I've kind of kept that in mind, picked a couple of colours out from the butterfly, and I'm going to spray these in the background. So just give it a nice good shake, get that ball happening. Oops. And maybe a little bit of water just to get it running a little. So just sort of going to turn my page about and get a little bit of drippage happening.
Yeah, so it's really important that you use an archival permanent ink if you're going to do this technique.
Absolutely, yeah. Else otherwise we'd have a big black mess by now. So that's looking pretty good. I'm just going to dry that off. You can see that blue is going to look great. Just picks up that little bit of tealy colour that's coming, that we've already painted with the Paper Artsy colours. And it really makes this sort of pop out too now, because it's sort of taking on a little bit of the colour, but it's also resisting a bit as well. So I'm just going to spray a little bit of yellow now. And just a touch of water. And again, just sort of move your paper around to get a little bit of movement happening. That's looking pretty good. So the only thing with the Art by Marlene journal is I've got to always remember where the holes are, so which way the paper's going. No good finishing my page and then realising I've got it upside down.
Oh, it wouldn't be the first time we've ended up with an upside down page in a journal.
I'm sure every journal I own has got at least one upside down page. We've all done it, haven't we?
Most definitely.
Okay, so that's nearly dry. I've just got a little bit of black cotton, so this is just out of the stitching box because I don't really do a lot of sewing. And I'm just going to pull off a bit of cotton. And obviously the messier the better. So just going to sort of layer it down. And I want a little bit up here, so I'm just going to make another little ball of cotton up there as well.
Who would have thought of using black cotton in your art journal?
It's such a great little accessory. Just gives it a little extra something. And I'm just going to use a little bit of good old Tim's Distress Collage Medium. So you could use gel, got a bit of my hair in it. You could use a little bit of gel medium, but I like the Tim's Distress stuff because it's nice and it's just a little bit thicker than gel medium. I can see where it's going, but it dries nice and clear. So we just want to layer that on. Making sure you just capture a good clump of that so it doesn't sort of float around on your page for too much and get tangled up in your other pages. And it looks a little messy now, but it will dry nice and clear. Honest.
We believe you.
Oops. All right. I think that's pretty good. I might just encourage it to dry a little quicker. Work out if this is really cotton or nylon, it's going to shrivel otherwise, won't it?
Add to the texture.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes those little mistakes always turn out to be the best part on your page. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so I've just got some little foam dots, and I'm just going to pop them on the back of my butterfly. Now these ones are a little bit thin, so I'm going to pop one on top of each other without taking the little backing off, just so I've got a little bit more dimension there. Obviously you could use thicker pop dots if you've got them, but this is what I have in my stash. So and we're nearly done. I might just, where's my scissors gone there now? Just going to pop some down in the base here just to make sure that we've got everything stuck down nicely. So I've just cut that in half. Oh, and I've got isolation nails, so I can't get the stickers off.
And a good reminder that you don't have to use them as you're given it as well. If you need less, just cut it in half.
Exactly. Here we go, they're coming off now. Tricky little suckers. They're coming off everywhere. All right, and then we can pop him down onto our page, making sure I've got it in the right direction. So I've got my holes to the left-hand side. Okay, and just to finish it off, we'll use a little bit of archival around the edges. So I'm just using a makeup sponge, and I'm just going to just edge around my cardstock, the journal page. Just gives it a little bit of a frame. Oh, and I did forget to mention that when I fussy cut that little butterfly out, I also edged with my black ink like I'm doing here, just so that there wasn't any white cut edges left from the fussy cutting.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Even if you don't use black, if you use a dark grey or a brown, depending on your design, it just takes that edge off and really helps complete the layout.
Nothing worse than having a little bit of white showing through. So I have edged it around the edges there with a bit of black ink. Okay, so, and then I've just got some of these. I think everyone's got these in their collection, just the Small Talk, Tim Holtz little stickers, and I'm just going to pick a nice little quote. Today is full of possibilities. That one's talking to me.
Today has been full of possibilities.
Yes, and I kind of like to cut them up a little bit and make them a little bit shorter to fit your page. So again, just using a little bit of black ink. It's probably enough ink on there. Nope. can. And I've just got a fine line pen, and I'm just going to go around the edges there and just embed it in the page, just with a rough scribbly line. And that's it, ladies. We're done. So I would just pop that back into my art journal.
And how long do you find does it the Tim Holtz medium take to dry?
That's just about there, probably another half hour or so.
Okay.
Something like this I would leave open overnight and just make sure that it's nice and dry, but it's already just about going clear, so in those little spots there, so that's a good indication that it's drying. And I would probably heat it a lot longer with the heat tool if I was just working by myself without the camera on, obviously. So that's it. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that.
Excellent. Yes. Well, we'll give you a moment to bring your camera back around and then we'll have a chat. So wasn't that an amazing amount of techniques? There was stamping, there was painting, there was pencils on paint, there was the pens to highlight, the edging, the fussy cutting, using the sprays, using the mediums, and just a whole heap of things. So that was fantastic. Thank you, Dannii. That was really good.
My pleasure. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, we did. Now, if people want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube and on my other socials, Facebook. I have a little art page there as well, and on Instagram. Okay. You'll pop the links down for me, won't you?
Yes, we'll make sure we pop the links down so everyone can find you.
I also teach at Crafters Cupboard, so I do a bit of art journaling there, so you can come along to some of our classes that we have once, obviously, the restrictions have been lifted.
Hopefully soon we can get back to classes, if not to craft shows.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I'm missing it.
Yeah, definitely. It is hard. I think we do sort of get used to crafting in isolation, but it's nice to be able to reach out to others as well.
Absolutely. It's that camaraderie that you have with the other ladies, like-minded people.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for joining us today on behalf of Crafters Cupboard.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay,
thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Excellent, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you enjoyed Dannii's art journaling. Like I said, I was just amazed at those number of techniques, and a really good reminder that to get all those layers and that detail, that you need to build it up slowly and get to know your different paints and different pens and know how they work together. So again, thanks for joining us. Make sure you give us a like and share us with your crafty friends. All of the details of P2P Craft Presents are over at our website from picture2pageandbeyond.com.au, and I hope you have had a fantastic day. So this is Michelle signing off. Have a crafty day.